9 out of 10 households are still using either charcoal or firewood in Uganda to cook. So which tells you the impact that it has on the environment. They don't use plastic bottles. They just get water, they boil it. That is if they can afford to boil it. Some also in some communities we've worked with, they don't boil. They just take the dirty water, they drink it. So usually the adults have built that immunity against the waterborne illnesses. So usually it's the kids that suffer. One of the questions, that very valid question, the gentleman asked this, okay, you guys have come here. We are currently used to how we do things here. You are going to bring us a product that is going to provide us with clean and safe drinking water. We appreciate that. But how long are you going to be here? So that when we get used to clean and safe drinking water, we don't have to go back again.
Invisible Experts Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode, the Invisible Experts Podcast. Today, I'm very glad to have as a guest to Michael Nimoh. Hello, Michael. How are you?
Hello, Andres. I'm good. Pleasure to catch up with you after almost 10 years. It's been a while, but I'm excited to be here.
Okay, fantastic, man. But today we're going to talk a little bit, clean water and sustainability, because I know you are working with it. But for the audience, I would love you to have the opportunity to introduce yourself. So if you can tell them who you are, where now you are working, and what is the company that you are working with, Spouts International.
Thank you. I don't know, should I call you Dr. Morales or Andres?
No, Andres, come on, man. Yeah, just...
Yes. So thank you, Andres. My name is Michael. My full name's Michael Nanaya Nimoh, born in Ghana, but living, I think in the last 11 years, I've been living outside, working outside Ghana. I schooled in Ghana, studied business administration, majored in accounting from the University of Ghana. And then after school, did my usual national service teaching in Ghana. Then left Ghana to gain international experience. I thought it might take 3-4 years, I'll be back to Ghana, but 11 years down the line, I'm still gathering international experience. So yeah, from Ghana, I left to Deloitte in Tanzania to work with their strategy and operations division as a business analyst. So I worked with them for about a year and decided that I wanted to get some real life experience. So I left for India, worked with a bit in NGOs, working with NGOs to support their strategy project management under ISEC. And then I went to work with Arohana Diary in India, Tanjavur. I believe that's where I met you. We had our first interview, and that was a long time in 2014. So after Arohana, I came back to Tanzania to work with Universal Aviation. So from social enterprise, working with farmers, rural dairy farmers, working directly with the CEO. I came to Tanzania again to work with Universal Aviation. Now I was a bit focusing now on certain parts of the business. So now I had moved into more of operations, business development, marketing. So that's what I was supporting Universal, helping them to establish some new businesses across Africa and also supporting the country, the managing director. So Universal, in our office in Tanzania, we were serving clients all across Africa. So it was a bit of a broad scope of work. So somewhere after working for over 5 years with them, Spouts came calling. I saw the opportunity with Spouts, and since India had always wanted to work in the social enterprise space, because I knew that one of the challenges that exist, especially in NGOs, social enterprises, is combining that skill of commercial entities to impact. because a lot of the time, either the company, the organization is very focused on impact, but they are not running in a sustainable manner. So after some years, they've run out. So that means either they are spending more money than what is coming in, or failing to raise more money to support. So for me, the challenge was a bit of, okay, how can I use my commercial background skills to help an impact-driven organization to scale up, especially scaling up and also being sustainable along the way. So that's how I got into Spouts. I joined Spouts in January 2019. I've also crossed 5 years here. I joined first as the sales and marketing director for Uganda. At that time, Spout was only in Uganda. Then sometime in, I think, 2021 or 2022, I moved to Rwanda, where we had just started our first country outside of Uganda. So I moved there as the global growth director to actually help set up the country. So I was there acting as the country director, whilst also supporting Spouts to look into new markets to go in. Then sometime in 2023, I came back to Uganda once we had a new country director for Rwanda. I came back to Uganda to now take on Spouts carbon projects that we were implementing. So now I came in as the Global Strategic Programs Director, where I was responsible for our carbon emission reduction projects that we had as a business. And I did that also a bit of a year ago, and now I've been tasked to lead our country operations in Uganda. So yeah, I'm a bit of wherever there's any need, wherever there's any support, I'm willing to step in because my experience is broad range, commercial, carbon, and at the country level here. So now I'm responsible for everything that goes on in Uganda, both for our commercial and our carbon project. So it's a mix of bringing all my skills together to support. Yeah.
Wow, man! In 10 years, huh? You live like three lives at the same time. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So listen, just to contextualize to the audience. So what Spout does,
yeah,
and how can actually they are self-sustainable, how they make money in order to, to deliver the service.
Yeah, thank you. So that takes me to the second part about what Spouts of Water does. Sorry, I don't know what's happening to my voice.
It's okay, it's okay.
I think I need to just drink a bit of water.
It's okay. Just a little bit nervous.
I'm just jumping in after another meeting. Yeah, so
Okay.
It's been a back-to-back meeting. So Spout is a manufacturer of ceramic water filter. Actually, we are the largest ceramic water filter manufacturer in Africa right now. And by the mid of next year, with our factory expansions that we've undertaken since last year, we are going to become the largest ceramic water filter manufacturer in the world, operating right here from Uganda. Currently, we are doing about 10,000 filters a month, but by mid of next year, plans are in place. We are on track to do about 60 to 70,000 filters a month. That means we are we are increasing our capacity by over 6-7 times. So how we operate is we just don't manufacture the product, but we are also involved in making sure that either we are selling the distribution of the product. So our business model has been evolving over the years. And as you talked about, this was all in drive to make us sustainable. Because usually what you see is you have a product like that, and our product, it's actually geared towards every household to have access to clean and safe drinking water. That is our mission. That is what we live for as an organization. We want every household to have access to clean and safe drinking water. But what we've seen is there's a disparity between those living in the urban areas, peri-urban areas, and those living in the rural areas. So urban areas, people are engaged in economic activities where they can afford to buy the filters. But then as you keep going lower and lower down, you go to the rural areas where people are engaged in some form of economic activity, but it's subsistence living. Whatever they get is what maybe put food on the table, and part of the food they are growing is what they are eating themselves. So it leaves very little room for them to invest significantly in any other kind of investment, even if it's for their health. So it becomes a thing of a priority. I need to eat first. My family needs to eat first. And with drinking water, there are options. Either they can boil their water or they can just drink the water untreated. And what we've seen is for those who boil their water, it's a safe way to get water clean. But what it has implications on the environment, meaning that they have to cut down trees to boil their water, especially in those rural areas where most of them are relying on firewood for cooking and other things. And with research that has been conducted, about 9 out of 10 households are still using either charcoal or firewood in Uganda to cook. So which tells you the impact that it has on the environment. And we've even seen in some of these villages where they will tell you that the distance that they have to cover to get firewood gets longer and longer each year because they've depleted the nearby trees. So now they have to go deeper and deeper and go over long distances in order to get access to get firewood to bring home to come in. And you see that a lot of the time the responsibility falls on women and children to do that responsibility. So there's a whole lot of social implication on people relying on firewood. That's why in the rural areas, we also want to make sure that irrespective of their economic situation, they also have access to clean and safe drinking water. So that's how now we have a business model where we sell our filters, and then in the commercial areas, and then in the rural areas, either it's highly discounted depending on the partner we are working with, or it's provided at a free cost to them. And that is being supported by our carbon financing. So because of that kind of financing, we can provide the products to some of these communities, either at highly subsidized or for free, depending on the context, the location, and also the partner that we are working with. So that's how our business model has evolved.
Amazing. Listen, I have a couple of questions. First, so the filter is made in ceramics, right?
Yes.
So I base really like heavy, I suppose, or not really?
Not really. So the filter has, as a full unit, it has about, depending on the type of filter, we have 3 different types, the regular, Viva, and the XL. It has about a minimum of 3 components. So usually there's the pot itself that does the filtration. And then there's the food grade plastic receptacle that stores the water. So how it works is the filter, you pour the dirty water into the filter pot. It does the filtration, but the clean water needs to be stored somewhere. So we provided a plastic food grade that can last tens of years receptacle which stores the clean water. Then there's a tap. So anytime someone wants water, they just open the tap. So I usually call it like a 3-in-1 system. It's a filter, it's a water storage, and then it's a dispenser. So actually the name Spout, right from our beginning, represented something. It was an acronym, not just a name. So it meant sustainable point of use, treatment, and storage. So it's sustainable in the sense that the pots are made of clay. So even when you don't need the pot again, because it's fragile, it can break after some time. Also, after 5 years, we advise our clients not to use it. They need to dispose it off. But because it's a clay pot, it goes back to the soil. So instead of throwing it away, people use it either as flower pots, or they just break it and mix it with their soil, and they enrich their soil. So that's what makes it sustainable. It's a point of use. You use it as where you are. Use treatment. It treats the water to turn dirty water with bacteria, and then into clean water. And then there's the storage aspect. So the Spouts represented an acronym of our what we stand for and what we do.
Wow, that's very interesting. And actually, like, fun enough, part of this season of our podcast, we have Jeron, a friend of mine. He also have a business in water filters in Indonesia. He works with Nasaba. Have you come
Nazava,
across?
I know Nazava. Yeah, I've met their CEO.
Yeah. She's Dutch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was explaining us look, the impact that they made. So how much is per filter? I know you guys like have different, you have 4, 5, 6 types, no?
We have three
Three
types.
types.
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah.
between $40, no? And
Actually, it's cheaper a bit. Our base product is about $23. That's the base product. Then we have about a $40 product, and we have about $80 products, which is ideal for more for institutions because it has a bigger capacity. Yeah. So our minimum price for the retail pricing starts from about 23, 24, depending on the dollar rate. Everything depends on the dollar rate here. Yeah.
okay. So basically, in with the communities that you work with, can they afford to have a plastic bottle, or they basically get the water and then they boil the water and then they consume it?
So they don't use plastic bottles. They just get water, they boil it. That is if they can afford to boil it. Some also in some communities we've worked with, they don't boil. They just take the dirty water, they drink it. So usually the adults have built that immunity against the waterborne illnesses. So usually it's the kids that suffer in that kind of situation. So usually when we even approach the community and we engage with them in our community engagement, we bring it from the point of you as an adult, you might be okay, but your kids are the ones that are going to suffer. That is how we try to also approach it to get the community to buy in to have a water filter at home.
Wow, that's crazy. And you were saying that, no, before, like there are some places in Uganda, like they actually have to walk, get the water, and then come back home with the water in order to boil it. And this is very interesting because, you can see the differences, and also for our audience, in between the socioeconomic of Indonesia, for instance, and in this case, Uganda. Because one of the problems in Indonesia is the amount of plastic wastage, because they basically go and buy the bottle in plastic bottles, and then, they are convinced to use the filter, which is more sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, in this case, Social Impact, which is the company of my friend Jeron, their competitors are like Danone, all these people who produces water. But in your case, you actually have to provide sometimes for free, right? Am I right?
Yeah, depending on the community. We also do contend with plastic users, but that is more in the urban locations where people are more, the economic situation is different, so they can easily buy the plastic bottles, the 5-liter, 10-liter, 20-liter bottles to use at home. But that one too, it becomes an issue of how many. For example, my first time I came in Uganda, before I found my place, I had to stay in a hotel. And the hotel usually would just give you like a 500 milliliter bottle for free for the day. And you have to find your own source of water. So at that time, I had not been set up so I have to drink water because you go to work, you come back, you eat, you have to drink water. So I spent about 2 weeks in the hotel. And I decided to just keep the 1-liter, 2-liter bottles that I purchased. And by the time I left, I was like, oh my God, like there was a heap in the side of the room just from 2 weeks of me just using plastic bottles, buying the 1-liter, 500 milliliters, 2-liter, 1.5 liter. So it's between 1-liter, 1.5 liter, and then the 500 milliliter. I was like, wow, this is insane. So it actually reinforced the belief because at that time I was new in the organization. I'm trying to get used to the organizational. I'm like, okay, this makes sense why we should push this product even in the urban markets to make sure that people don't spend so much money buying bottled water. First, it's expensive if you calculate the cost. And then also this pollution, like in the urban areas, even if we can reduce plastic pollution in urban areas from water just by even 10%, that is a significant impact.
Wow. Yeah, of course. How bad it is in terms of water sanitation in Uganda, for instance, where you are based now?
I'll say it's a bit better in the urban and peri-urban areas. The government have taken strides to provide access to clean water, but the problem then becomes some of these pipes that carry the water are quite old. Some were laid even before I was born. They've not been maintained, they've not been replaced. So the issue become like there's tap water coming into houses in urban areas, but people just don't trust to drink from the tap. No one, I don't know anyone here who drinks tap water. Like maybe unlike Europe, unlike America or some Western worlds where people here, it's generally just, it's clean water, but no one knows if it's safe water because there's a difference between clean water. With clean, you can look at it, it's clear, but it doesn't mean that the water is safe for consumption. So that is the challenge we have here. So it might be clean water coming in, but because of sometimes the old pipes that is coming through and things, it's not very safe to drink. And then as you go towards the rural areas, the government is actually making efforts to provide, but also government has its restrictions. So you see that in most rural areas, there might be a central point of maybe some water, but it also depends on the season. And also people might have to pay for it. So they decide to just go and get the free water. And that means they have to go get some water from an open source. And for in some places, we've actually seen them sharing their water source with animals.
Wow. But listen, so basically, like in terms of the what is called WASH, no water, sanitation, and hygiene,
Yeah.
where do you think Uganda stands? Is it really bad or that improving massively? Because back in the day, I went to Uganda, by the way. We did a little bit of a project there. We went to Kampala and Kabale, right?
Okay, Kabale.
Yeah. And there were some situations in terms of WASH, no? Water, sanitation, and hygiene. But that was back in 2015 or something, a long time ago. So how it is now, and if you think, with this kind of like global agenda of the SDGs, the 2063 agenda of Africa, it's kind of pushing like this situation into the right direction, or do you think it's just greenwashing?
I'll say there's been some improvements, but the question remains on the pace. So you see that in certain African countries, there is a lot of movement, like the pace is there. In some countries too, you see, we would get there, we are getting there, but we are taking our time, like, of course, because sometimes, there was a time we had a WASH conference and what we were discussing was WASH has been one of the sectors that has not received so much investment compared to, let's say, education, health, or things like that. And nowadays, even the environment is picking up more investment than WASH. So WASH is not really a sexy, if I'm to put it that way, forgive me, sector. Like it's not something that someone just appeals to you from nowhere. Oh, let me go into WASH or something. It's something that you must be passionate about if you want to go into that. So there have been some strides have been made, and that is being honest. Strides have been made, but what I just believe is just the pace at which is it matching, because you see more people are coming into the world, and so population is increasing. So that means that there's the pressure on the same resources as this. So that means we should be matching our population growth. We should be matching the growth in our population with the investments that we make with certain infrastructure like that. Yeah.
And I was wondering where the water comes from, the Victoria Lake, or it comes from the mountain?
Yeah. So depending on the catchment area, there are some from the lake, some are from other rivers, some are also from the mountain areas. So those who are closer to the mountain areas, they have also the process of water supply from the mountain areas as well. Yeah.
So do you think Uganda sometimes face like dry season, like no water at all, or not really?
In some parts of Uganda, there have been issues. Like if you look at the Karamoja area, the northern region area, you can sometimes you go there and you see that access to water is a problem on its own. So there are also organizations there. So in the wash space, different organizations are trying to tackle different things. I know some organizations that are trying to tackle access to water. And we are also in the space of tackling the issue of access to clean and safe drinking water. So for
Yes.
us, it's not just having water, but it should be clean and safe to drink. So we have a lot of guys in the space trying to do something. So some are focused on some of these areas. Let's make sure that at least there's water. And then we'll come in and say, let's make sure that the water is clean and safe.
Wow. Yeah, it's true, man. I never really thought about it. Like, to be honest, it's a multidimensional matter, no? It could be
Yes.
access, it could be like access to clean water, provision, right? So
Yeah.
is it rain water and then the lake water from Victoria, right?
Mhm.
And is it salty water? What kind of water is Victoria?
No, Victoria is not salty
Okay.
because we are a bit far from the ocean, so we don't have
Okay. Okay.
much issues with salty water. Yeah, but if you go to Tanzania, like Kenya, then you would also encounter hard water, also hard or salty water.
So they have to desalinate it.
Yeah, so in some places, depending on the source, yeah, it has to be, but also depends on how they are getting their water. And that means also even the components, some of the water are hard naturally, so there has to go through some processes to make it a bit soft. Yeah.
So is your filter also working in another areas, even though the water changes? Or
Yeah, but the efficacy right now, that is one of the processes that we are working on its efficacy against hard water. It has some efficacy because we've sold a filter in Tanzania, where in some of these places they are on the coastal like side, and it still works there. You could see a reduction in the saltiness. Right? Well, it's not taking the water from the ocean because even after it has gone through the processes, it's still a bit hard. So you could feel like if you drink water from Dar es Salaam or something, take tap water, you could feel a bit of like they had the saltiness a bit in it. So the filter is able to do a certain level because the filter usually focuses on physical contaminants and then bacteria and germs. Pathogens. That's what we mostly focus on. So now our R&D team is now looking at also what else can we add on. So in certain places like Kenya, where we've currently expanded to, their water situation is a bit different. So how can we advance our filter in such a way that it can deal with some of these issues locally?
wow, that's very good, man. Well done. I think it's very important in such a remote places to provide, such service, isn't it?
Yeah.
Michael, for people who have no idea, even myself, of course, have to be honest, how bad it is to, drink, unsanitized or not drinkable water. How can your body be affected in a negative way? What happens with your body when you drink, water with bacteria, different types of metals, right?
Yeah.
Some polluted water. What happened?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know, it's fine, but it's cool.
Yeah. No, so to a certain level, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But naturally it's for here, it's there's the issue of typhoid. It's very common for people who drink contaminated water, or even use contaminated water to wash fruits or to wash fruit or utensils that they used to eat. Why? Because this is something that the body is not used to. It's not meant to be in the body. So usually, I mean, one of the challenges that we've even been educating households in some places where they boil water, what we've seen has been the cause is someone can go to the washroom, the toilet. They don't wash their hands with soap, thinking that, oh, so far as I've rinsed my hands, I'm okay. Kids might not even wash their hands properly. Then they need to drink water. They come, they take the cup, they put it inside the container to fetch water. So the hand goes into the water and all these germs go back in. Or the kids are outside, they are playing in the sand, they don't wash their hands, they are thirsty, they need water. You boil the water first, so you've dealt with the issue. But now people are coming to put caps in, and these caps have not been well cleaned, and their hands are not well washed. Kids just put it in, they're even happy. Some water has gone on their hands, they've transferred the bacteria, the germs into the water. People drink it and then they get sick. So typhoid is very common. Cholera is also very common, like as a result of some of drinking some of these untreated things. So one of the things that we actually test is E. coli, because E. coli is then something that has been known as one of the major causes of typhoid. Yeah.
The bacteria, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, wow. This is very challenging, isn't it? Because also I suppose you guys also have to some extent work in educating people, in terms how to clean properly, how hygiene is important, especially in
Yes.
rural areas. So
Yeah.
from your experience, being there for a long time, what are the most challenging aspects of not only providing the filter but also educating communities to be healthy and be more clean when they consume water?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think one of the challenges, the biggest challenge, is the mindset change. That is what we encounter. Why? And there was one of these communities where we were working in. I was there during the stakeholder engagement, because usually for some of our projects, before we go in, we do what we call a stakeholder engagement to engage the key stakeholders of the community. And one of the questions, that very valid question, the gentleman asked this: okay, you guys have come here. We are currently used to how we do things here. You are going to bring us a product that is going to provide us with clean and safe drinking water. We appreciate that. But how long are you going to be here? So that when we get used to clean and safe drinking water, we don't have to go back again to drinking, because at that point, their level of immunity against the germs and the bacteria has reduced, because now they are drinking clean water. So their valid question was, how long are you going to be here to make sure that when the pot breaks or we need a replacement or it's time to change our pot, you are not going to tell us we've left your country, we are no longer operating here and things. So and also the mindset change on trying to get people to move from boiling
Dependent.
water. Yeah, because honestly, the government has invested quite a lot of money, because at that level, at that point, the lowest cost-based approach to making water safe to drink was boiling. So the government really invested in that campaign to, at least in the rural areas, to educate them that at least just boil your water so that it can be safe for drinking. So now imagine decades of that kind of messaging, and now you go in with a different product that, okay, boiling is good, we accept that, it works, it's effective, but it's not the best solution. So we are bringing you a better solution. It takes time for people to change their mindset. So that mindset change has actually been one of our biggest. There are some places where, for even religious purpose, people have refused to use our product.
Wow. And how is that?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate this?
So the kind of belief they have, the kind of religion they belong to, because we partner. So how we work with is we try to partner with local government and also local organizations on the ground. So in that area, we had partnered with a traditional kingdom, like a king. It's a kingdom with a king. So we've entered into an agreement with them to provide the people in that kingdom with access to clean and safe drinking water. So because of our partnership with the kingdom, these religious body feel like it's occultic or something like that. Like we are attached to the kingdom. So whatever we do, because there's sometimes in some communities, there's a perception between what goes on with some of these kingdoms and some dark magic and things like that. So they believe that by working with them, our product is also like not good. So their leadership has warned them against using our product. So you go into some communities, we know if they belong to this kind of faith, it's okay. We have accepted that. We've educated them. Actually, some of their members, when they understand it, they hide and use it. They take it, then they go and hide it and they use it. But then generally, so it's all part of working in those kind of communities. Some of the hurdles that we need to work with.
Wow. Like I couldn't believe, like sometimes, these cultural aspects also, it's an obstacle for you to provide something which is good for everyone, especially for the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't like, I had the impression they used to have this kind of tribal, no, conflict. Right?
Yeah, but it's not very common nowadays.
So do you guys work in the entire Uganda? Because it's still in the north,
Yeah.
there are a lot of issues with, like the rebels and so on, or you just work in safe areas?
So currently we work in 3 regions. We work in some parts of North in another project we are running. We were running with a partner for clean stoves, clean cooking. But for our water filter project, we are working in the Western region, part of the Western region, part of Central. We sell commercially, we sell also in Central region. And now we've been to the Eastern region as well. So our focus is to work on the whole of Uganda, but we approach it depending on the community, depending on the partner we are working with. And of course, for the safety of our team, we also don't want to work in a place where maybe there's active conflict, which currently is not very common in Uganda. We have in some parts of Northern region, we have some resellers selling our filters in some parts of Northern region. So I can say we are in Uganda, the whole of Uganda is our target market. But also to be sustainable, you can't just spread yourself all across. We want to grow in a measured manner to make sure that, there's that growth element and we can sustain our growth.
So would you say you guys like operate under the Robin Hood model? So basically you sell filters to people who are willing to pay for those. And then, you make some money out of it. And then you provide free filters, if you wish, to these low-income families in the rural areas, or not really? Or you look for partnership to sponsor buying some filters, or you have a mix? Sorry, just to clarify a little bit.
Yeah, it's a mix. I would say it's a mix because as I said, yes, we sell in the commercial market, but even our pricing in the commercial market, it's not, you see, as a social enterprise, our mission is not about profit making. It's not that we want to make profit and buy a yacht and go and live in an island somewhere. That's not the goal of the founders. It's to provide impact. So what we look at mostly as an organization and what drives our decision making is we should make enough money that we can reinvest it back into the business. So for example, when you look at our costs, we spend quite a lot on people, because people are the ones that drive it. When you go to a factory, there are people at head office. We have a team actively working. We have a team supporting the field team. Even in the field, we have people who are selling on our behalf. So our mission, our goal is, let's make enough money that we can reinvest it back into the business, even with enough left to expand to other locations, because we want to make sure every household has access to clean and safe drinking water. And for us to be sustainable, that means that there should be enough profit made for us to be able to expand instead of relying on donor funding, because donor funding is not a very sustainable way to run a business. So we literally, it's like we are impact driven, but also we want to make enough money to support our operations, to make sure that people are paid and paid well, not just paid to live, to to survive, but paid enough that they take pride in the work that they do. Then in areas where they cannot afford the full price of the filters, that is when we now work with partners. So it's based on partnerships to say, how can we support this community? What level of support? For example, there's one partnership that we are currently working on with an IDP, International Development Partner, to target a certain community and provide a filter at 50% discount, with the International Development Partner more or less subsidizing it. Do you get it? So it depends on the community, it depends on the partner and how they want to approach it. Then, so we are very flexible when it comes to that.
It seems a very innovative approach, right? To approach
Yes.
businesses. I think it's really good. Like it's so important in this type of organizations which try not only to sell a product but create value, to innovate, isn't it? And also like how to encounter such cultural barriers and because there are challenges anywhere we go. Actually, like this is what we were talking with Jeron, because it's a similar project. It's called also social impact. This cultural aspect sometimes can be really challenging. And that's why I want to go back to something that you mentioned before. And it was about changing the mindset. Okay. Look, from the West, let's say, there is a tendency, especially, when you try to study the sub-Saharan African countries, right? When you work and when you try to study the third sector, the international cooperation, there is a concept about this kind of dependency syndrome, right? Because there have been a lot of, influx of aid, foreign aid, through NGOs, multilateral organizations, and so on and so forth. So my question to you is like, from your corner, I know you guys try to just target specific market. You think also like, is there in a challenge to change the consumer habits? Like, let's say low income families, okay, under the basis they cannot afford it. But if they could, do you think at some point they would be able to, rebuy the charcoal or the filter in order to keep drinking healthy water?
That's a very good question. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And actually, that was one of the conversations we're having with the International Development Partner, because they are actually one of the organizations where traditionally they've been known to providing aid. So now they are trying to move into a market systems approach, where they want to support organizations to target some of these communities that at least are making some level of income, but traditionally they were known to be aid recipients. So part of the approach and they trying to do is to de-risk for us, the businesses, to go into this market, saying that this is a market that has been used to free things, but now we want to change the mindset. So we want you to come in as a business, offer your products and services, and let's see how we can de-risk you. Because for me as a business, it becomes a risk that I'm going to invest money, resources to set up an office or some business there, and the people are not going to buy. That means I have a sunk cost. So it will not be a market that for now I will be interested in going until my analysis proves that the market is ready. So what they are trying to do now is to accelerate that process and say that, okay, what are some of your investments that you need to do to get there? Let's fund you, de-risk that, and let's bring you into the market. Because yes, it's true. We've that is, and even at Spout here, that has been some of the topics where we've had some of our biggest debates: free versus subsidized versus full cost. But we've also understood that we are dealing with decades of some practices that you cannot just turn it off by pressing a button or switching, like flipping it just over a year or two. The same way it's also going to take decades or time, not decades maybe, but time, and probably even a new generation that would grow up with a different approach, market approach. So yes, in some places it's a problem. But what I'm happy to see is a lot of the development agencies are now beginning to pivot to moving from free to subsidized as a
Wow.
process. Yeah. So it's not a lot of them, but slowly we are, it's a shift. Even if it's one partner, two partners, three partners, we are happy because it signifies, and some of these partners are leaders in the industry, so they are showing the way for people to know that, hey, it's possible. So right now, I'll say it's in an experiment stage. We don't have a lot of data to prove, to show how much is going, but it's good news because then it helps organizations like us to also strategize and see, okay, how do we approach this market if it's been very deep? There are some markets that for us now, we are not very happy to go in to sell because we know the mindset is this way. There are some that we know we can go in and sell, and there are some that we know, okay, we can go in, but we need to go in at a subsidized price because the people might be willing, but it's just a matter of capacity.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, actually, because, for the audience, when we talk about this dependency syndrome, it's basically some low-come info, low-come families in communities. They basically are used to receive aid.
Yeah.
Right? So they actually enter into this cycle of just expect like foreign agencies and the state to provide, and they actually are disempowered, right? Don't get me wrong, of course, aid is very needed, everywhere, not only in the sub-Saharan African countries, but also in Europe, for instance. Now, for instance, you can see in Spain what's happening in Valencia. These people need aid because they lost everything. But the problem is when it's something which is constantly happening and is systematic, it creates a mindset that is really hard to change and modify. So as you said, like I actually never thought about it. Like first you have to change the mindset from free to subsidized in order to transform them into consumers. Because at the end of the day, it's a needed product, Wow. So you also have these conversations within, no? The company.
Yeah. We do.
And do you think this is something that happens across the countries that you work with within Africa? I mean, because what I want to say is like, okay, dependency doesn't only happen in the sub-Saharan African countries, right? I mean, that's not real. Even like in Europe, when you have such a strong welfare state, you also, civilians also become dependent on, aid and help and, etc., etc. So it's something which can happen everywhere. But since you've been traveling and working within the region, do you see this as a pattern, or it actually varies across the countries? That's based on your perspective, right?
Yeah. No, I think I can't say it's like a pattern all across. Even in countries, it differs from region to region and how they've interacted and even the economic activities. So because the way I look at it, it partly comes down to the level of economic activities in that particular location. that drive this, because as you rightfully said, even in some advanced countries where there's a lot of state support and things like that, it creates that. So that also makes people not want to produce a lot, because then if I start, my production level goes beyond a certain level. But what I've seen here is most of these communities that maybe there's a reliance on aid, it had been externally driven. Not that the people did not want to work, but either it's been conflict areas where there's not been enough stability for economic activities to take place, or natural disasters or something like that, that just takes away the ability from the people to do those kind of economic activities. So yeah, so I always like to look at it from take each country and try to understand the context of what things are happening, always trying to understand the history. Of course, if it happens for a decade, it sort of looks externally like, oh, these people are like this. But then when you understand the history, then you also try to understand, oh, this happened because of something that happened 20 years, 30 years ago, and probably the community has not yet recovered from that particular activity or incident or something like that. But yeah, I'll try to always say that each country is different. Of course, you might find bits and pockets of such kind of communities, but each country is also trying to tackle it in a different way.
Sure. I mean, based on my experience, I mean, of course, I didn't live there, but when I was trying, to understand the context of Uganda, it's tough, man. I mean, you really need to understand that it's almost 51 million people living in a small area. They have the north, which been affected by certain conflicts, and then the south. They have this massive migration from Rwanda after the genocide. So, as you said, even within the country, you have small, different cultural aspects, then they differ from each other. And for me, it was really surprising, moving from Uganda to Rwanda, man, because Rwanda, it was surprisingly advanced, even you can see, I don't know, even the motorbikes. You go to Rwanda, everybody wears a helmet, and they have the actual jackets, and Uganda is more fun, if you wish, in that respect. So when you guys as a spout try to move to another country, do you do a piece of research before, or you just go there and piloting any project, or how does Spouts work?
Yeah, so we what we do is to do our research about each country. So for example, now we have a list of countries we want to go in, and we've ranked them. We know, okay, but based also on certain parameters. For internal purposes, I cannot mention the exact parameters, but we have those parameters that, okay, we need to look for A, B, C, D, E, F. And then we try to rank each country in all of these. Then we look at, okay, this country will be ideal for this part of our project or this part of our business model. With our business model, which country suits here, and then based on that, we make a decision, because each country is unique. The opportunities are unique, the challenges are unique. So we never have a one strategy for all countries. Our approach to each country differs. Like in Rwanda, you could see the strategy that the Rwanda team is implementing is very different from the one that we are implementing here in Uganda. And that is the flexibility that we try to create in an organization, to say that, hey, one thing that remains consistent is our mission and our vision and our goal, that this is what we exist as an organization. So we need to contextualize it in the country that we are operating. So if we're in this country, what has it? Because in some countries, you might see the government has taken certain efforts in certain things. So we come in as a complementary like as a partner. So we don't really always say we have competitors or anything. We just say we are trying to solve a bigger problem. And the more people who are in supporting the trying to solve the problem, the better it is for the country, for the people. Because at the end of the day, we exist because there's a problem.
Yeah, of course.
We exist because there's a problem. We do not exist because we want to make money, but
Yeah,
there's a problem. So far as that problem exists as an organization, we want to continue to exist also to solve that problem.
that's very good. Yeah. And also, like, I was wondering, do you guys, your legal form, what is it? Is it a for-profit business or you have kind of a social enterprise? Because I know, like, in Uganda, there isn't really social business or social enterprise legal form.
Yeah, so usually there isn't a form like that. So you are a for-profit or a non-for-profit. But then it's usually we distinguish the business types based on your business model.
Sure, sure. So when you guys collaborate, do you have like this kind of CSR strategy? Hence, do you have a foundation and then through this foundation you do this? Or you just don't need to have this form? You just basically do your social work just as a company and that's it.
So yeah, we do have an NGO, but it also has its own mandate that it does. It's a
Okay,
bit smaller. But as a company, these projects are run by us directly. We have teams dedicated for this project. And as I said earlier, we try to work on it on a partner by partner basis. So no partner is the same. So what we usually do is we agree with the partner, the scope of the project, what we need to do, the timelines and everything. And then we set up the team. Because for us as a business, one of the things that we pride ourselves is our execution,
sure.
our excellence in what we do, high quality. So all the partners that work with us, no matter what happens, we want them to have integrity in the projects that we run, integrity in the business that we do. And that is why that for us, we always tell people, you are always welcome to come and see what we are doing. Like even there are some partners where we've given them access to the database directly. Of course, not to download, but to view. So we tell them, look, we want you to see when the data is coming in, so that when we report to you, we are not massaging the figures or anything. So the partner was like, wow, this is the first time a project partner is letting me see the data, like at least the summary of the data that is coming in, that, oh, this is the numbers that we've done. And when we send the reports, we pull from the same source. So usually it's like, okay, you say you've done this, but is it true? But for you, like, you could see also exactly what is coming in some of our projects, and we are just going to report and explain to you how these things were done. So it's about that integrity and having confidence. And this comes about also because of the people we have, the team, how we train them, how we try to communicate, the values that we have as an organization.
Sure.
It all helps to drive some of this culture that we have here.
Yeah. When I was looking at your website and obviously talking to you, I can see for you this kind of reputation and social, like brand value is so important. So I want to ask you, because of course you are directing this branch in Uganda, how do you manage, possible like conflict when you partner with someone and in practice they do not project your values? How do you deal with it?
Simply, we stop working with you.
Okay. Do you evaluate? I mean, do you have KPIs to evaluate whether or not they actually like deliver guided by your values?
Yes, we do. And that is part of every arrangement we go. That's why I said we don't treat every arrangement as the same. We try to go in with an open mind to understand, because we know what we want as a company. So even in our commercial arrangements, like in our partners we work with commercially, we stipulate this is what we want, this is the level of excellence that we need, pricing, this, that, and we make room for it in a contract that if you don't live up to those standards, we have a right to revocate this arrangement at any time that we deem that you are not living up to the expectations. So the KPIs are clear, and we try to make sure that we stand by it. So, because as you said, our reputation is very important to us as an organization, and there are some times that we've worked with some partners where they are having issues globally with some partners, but where they are like, yeah, when it comes to you guys, we don't even bother ourselves too much, because we know you are top notch, like excellence, like you are really focused on doing excellent things. So that is something that we pride ourselves. It's something that our CEO is constantly communicating also to the team, that excellence is, it's like we need to make sure that we deliver on promises, we deliver on excellence, and that integrity is also key to what we do.
That's so important, isn't it? So do you guys have like a, not department, but a team who strategically, identify possible partners that from the outside seem to align with your values, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we have different teams, different departments, and even we have a global team that supports in some of our operations. And within the global team, we have some in functional areas supporting, like we have, for example, an investment team, which looks at, before we bring in investment, how do we bring in investment? We have teams even in the carbon space that are looking at, if you are bringing on board a carbon project developer or partner or something, it's aligned. And we try to always align. So there's a team that we have, both at the executive level and even at the departmental level in each country, that looks into different aspects of the business and also provide inputs and guidance to the team.
Yeah. That, I think, like for those who are listening to us, is a very good strategy, right? Like to have to divide the tasks and try to specialize teams according to the task, isn't it? So Michael, listen, from your experience, how would you so far describe the social and environmental impact that Spouts has achieved so far?
Wow. Since we started our commercial operations in 2015, that's when we started. Our history dates beyond that, but that is when the first filter was tested and approved, and we started commercial operations. We've distributed or sold over 250,000 water filters, ceramic water filters. And with that means that we've provided over 1 million people with access to clean and safe drinking water. The environmental impact, it's hundreds of thousands of carbon emissions that have been reduced because people are no longer boiling water. Hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon emissions that have been reduced because of that. Economically, for households, some households are saving even as much as, if you do the calculation, about $10 a month on costs that they would have spent on buying charcoal or firewood to boil their water. So when you do the calculation in a household, in certain households, $120 a year savings, that's a lot. Usually, how we try to explain to people is that could start a small poultry at home with that kind of savings. If someone had bought a few chickens with the savings that they've made in 2 years, 3 years, they are doing good business with that. Environmentally, as I said, tons of carbon emissions have been reduced because people are no longer boiling water. So there's been some savings on that. Economically, we've saved households literally money. Because when you look at the amount of money, for example, in some households in Uganda, you could see that they spend between 500 shilling to 1,000 shilling a day, maybe if they were boiling water. That corresponds to, as I was saying, between $8 to $10 a month of savings to some households. To households where the average income is very low, that is about significant savings on that. And also dignity, like you look at the social aspect, dignity, people have access to clean water. Even in some households, you see that the time spent by women and children in boiling water is saved. Like people no longer have to travel long distances. Whatever firewood they get, it lasts longer because they don't need to boil water. Health-wise, people are not getting sick because we know if you are using a filter. So health-wise, we are happy to say over 1 million people are not getting sick of waterborne illnesses. We had, for example, there was a time where one of our clients called us like, oh, you know, my security guy at home had gotten sick of typhoid, and I don't understand how it's possible because we wash all our fruits, we use your water filter, and we are like, okay, this, we know our filter prevents people from getting sick, so let's look into this. So she even sent us samples of the water filter, of the water from her filter for us to test to see that if the water has like any bacteria inside. It came out negative with that. So we're like, okay, let's investigate further. Not knowing the guy had gone outside and eaten food and taken some fruits from outside the home, which had not been washed properly.
Wow.
And the guy
Okay.
got sick. So for us, we are very sure of our product on how health-wise it saves people from getting. So we are happy to say that 1 million people, individuals and children involved, have access to clean and safe drinking water. And when you look at our plan, the numbers keep growing. For example, if you look at this year, across 2 countries where we are actively operating, by the time we are done by the end of this year, we are going to have close to over 40, 50,000 people now added onto that number. Next year, that number is going over 200,000 across just 2-3 countries. So in 1 year, what we'll be able to achieve because we are scaling up had taken us about 5, 6, 7 years to do that. So each year we keep scaling up because now imagine next year we are going to produce 60 to 70,000 filters. That means that each month there are 60 to 70,000 households, which correspond to over 300,000 people getting access to clean and safe drinking water on a monthly basis.
Wow,
that is
man.
significant.
Wow, so
Yeah.
impressive. That's so
Yeah.
impressive. And this will actually lead to my next question. So, do you think it's profitable to create a business that also creates social and environmental value?
Yeah, I'll say it's possible if you have the right business model, because let's be honest, like based on the model we operate, it's not purely commercial. That's why you need to also find innovative financing to come in. And thanks to the market that we have around the carbon credits and the carbon financing, it's very supportive, because in that case, you are able to finance some of these projects because you are looking at scale. You are looking at also impact. So I'll say that it's a market that you don't come in for profitability. You come in for impact. If you come in for profitability, your business model will be very different, and even the target market will be purely focused on urban locations. Because we have other products in the market, but some of them are even twice expensive as ours. Just because you want to get your margins and to be to make enough profit or stuff. But for us, I'll say our profit is the impact that we look at. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Who are the owners of Spout?
So our founders were Americans. But now, since 2017, the company has been run by our CEO, Daniel Yin, also American. But each country is managed locally. We have our local management team that runs it. Then we've also have some investors coming on board, impact investors coming on board in the last couple of years. So our board has diversified a bit from the original founders to now impact investors. And I think that is also helping us because they also come on board with a wealth of experience in running social enterprises and trying to guide us on what path we should take to scale up to make more impact. So we are very happy and we are growing. Like we've just recently closed a Series A funding for a couple of $1 million to help us expand. And that is all possible because of what we believe in. Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit how these carbon credits works?
Yeah. So essentially, how carbon credits works, it's saying that companies emit, or even humans by nature, the things we do, we emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. I mean, we know the impact of that. So how carbon credit works is either you are preventing the emission of carbon credits, carbon emissions, or you are removing carbon emissions from the atmosphere. So in doing so, there's a calculation that goes on to say that, okay, in that case, for example, we are preventing the emission of carbon, CO2, by people not boiling water. Because when they boil water, they smoke. And even burning the biomass and things like that. So how it works is, of course, you have to go through a very lengthy process with a standard like Gold Standard, Vera, or other standards to say that my product prevents the emission of carbon credits. So what you usually do is there's a calculation that for each product you put into the market and for the type of household, because they look at several factors, including even the type of fuel that the people are using to treat their water treatment, even the household size, the water consumption, and all of that to come up with a calculation to say that for each product that you are selling or you are distributing, you are reducing carbon emissions by this number of tons per year. Then what you do is there are other organizations that maybe because of the nature of their business, it's very difficult. They don't have the technology yet to reduce carbon emissions. So based on in some markets like EU, like even in the aviation market nowadays, airlines are required to keep their carbon emissions within a specific, like a particular limit to reduce on the net emissions that are coming. So what happens is there are net emitters and then there are net like with organizations, countries, locations where, for example, if you look at Africa, Africa contributes less than 4% to global carbon emission.
It's crazy.
Yes. But we have opportunities here because of our forests and things like that, whereby we are a net. So we might not produce much in terms of carbon emissions, but we have opportunities to capture or reduce further carbon emissions. So what we do is now we take that and say we are reducing carbon emissions by this much. We have it in the form of carbon credits. You are emitting beyond what is expected of you, and people want to offset.
So you get paid for it, the reduction.
So you get paid for it. You get paid for the reduction. So that becomes an innovative way to get communities and organizations and even governments taking action. So we get paid for being. So it depends on the organizations. There are some organizations that they are maybe getting it for themselves because maybe in the industry they are working hard on cutting down emissions, but just because of the industry and the type of fuel they are using, it becomes very difficult. And these are still industries that we need them because they are providing goods and services. So they buy that and then they use that to offset and then retire those credits that, okay, this year, if, for example, we emitted 200,000 tons of carbon emissions, we've purchased maybe 200,000 tons of someone else who has reduced their emission to offset our balance or
Who pays
something
for
like
it?
Organizations are paying for it
Yeah,
most of
not
the
the
time.
state, though, no?
No. So there are some states. So it's a whole market ecosystem that if we
Okay,
start
okay, yeah,
talking
sure.
about that,
Yeah,
we
so
are, we
you are
are going
not
to spend
an
another.
expert on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree, I agree.
yeah. So
Listen,
it's a whole ecosystem. Yeah.
for someone, Michael, we met before, and like we met briefly, of course, but you seem like a very like impact driven, and you mentioned this before. For someone like you who traveled widely and work in different regions and countries, I want to ask you, so what is your driver? Why it's for you as a person worth it to work in this type of businesses? Because you could have gone to corporate, or you can even make more money, right? As you said before, you don't work, I mean, you don't work for the sake of the money, but you work for the sake of the impact. So you as a Michael, as an individual, what drives you to, yes, let's work in this sector and I can bring my talent there?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think I was having a conversation a few days ago with someone else, and we were talking about this impact thing. I was like, yeah, I hope my family doesn't hear this. That you say like, okay, this guy, why are you not making more money, but working in this type? But for me, I think when I'm so proud of what we do when I visit the communities where we operate in. When they tell you, oh, because of your filter, my child is no longer getting sick. That type of satisfaction, no amount of money can pay you. That I'm honored to say that I work in an organization where I can bank on it, that every single product that we take out of our production line is making an impact. So yes, money is very important, but knowing that deep within you, what you are doing contributes to someone, a kid, because there are kids who die as a result of waterborne illnesses. So assuming even in my entire life working here, I have saved one child from dying, just one child, because of our filter, I think I'm blessed. My life, I'm fulfilled. That for me, I'm fulfilled. So to be honest, it's not a sector that if you really want to make a lot of money, you come in. That is what I have to say. Because I usually tell you, yeah, the day I like, if I want to make more money, this is not where I will be working. But that's satisfaction. So if your satisfaction is on impact, then you find this kind of work very rewarding. But yeah, you find it very rewarding. But for me, the pride is that every single product. And usually when we have meetings and we are trying to, one of our values as an organization is a sense of agency. That we need to have a sense of agency because we know that every product that rolls out that does not get to a household in time can change a life. So when production is delaying, when the operations team are not moving the product fast enough, it's guys, remember we have a sense of agency. If the teams are a bit sluggish, guys, remember we have a sense of agency. Why? Because it's an impact driven. We are so sure that every single product that goes into a household, that rolls out and gets into a household, makes an impact. So sometimes when we started, you could meet someone, you tell them, I work here. They're like, who are you? What organization? But now I've had a couple of meetings where one of the partnerships we're talking about. So I was talking to that IDP guy, like their team leader, and took time explaining about the product. You are trying to sell why they should choose you to be an implementation partner for them. And then after all the talking and everything, the guy is like, it was just wonderful hearing you speak passionately about your product and organization. but I just have to tell you, I've bought about 8 of your products for my family members. I was like,
Wow.
wow, why did you make me talk so much? But it was like, I needed to know your story, to know the story of the organization. They connected us to another organization that we are supposed to work together. And the CEO of that organization was like, yeah, I know your product. I have one at home. I was like, come on, guys. Now I feel like everyone knows us. So there is that joy sense of you come in, barely no one knows about your organization. And 5 years, 6 years later, now you can speak to 10 people and about 3 or 4 people know about your product. There, it's like, wow, like we are getting there. Like we want, because for us, we want our product to be in every single household. So there's nothing like, there's a joy that you get. You can even see how I'm smiling, that you just think about some of these things and the money is not even becoming a factor at some
No,
point.
it doesn't. It doesn't. Actually, like there is a concept, I read it, don't remember when and where, but it's about this kind of inner profit, these
Yeah.
intangibles that make your day, like a
Mhm.
smile, you know, somebody who tells you thanks in a way you changed my day or my week, or my family's behaving in a different way. Those intangibles are really, really, really important, isn't it? Look, actually, funny enough, Uganda, I mean, I'm always saying like I'm being fortunate because I've been traveling a lot, but these kind of like sub-Saharan African countries, they have something special, man. I mean, for me, Uganda specifically, I did a couple of documentaries there. Remember that we
Yeah.
we make documentaries every now and
Yeah.
then, not so
Yeah.
much nowadays. But Uganda was so special, man. I mean, there is about this country who completely changed my perception of the world. And I was like collaborating with this school of social entrepreneurs. They work with youth in Kampala.
Okay.
It's in a neighborhood called actually Quotas. It's a very low income neighborhood.
Actually. Okay.
Yes. And I spent the time with the kids, and then after, like the kids were like, please don't forget us. It was crazy, man, because it's true. Sometimes you connect with people and then you just move forward and you keep going with your life. But for them, you make their week or the days that you are with them, right? So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, do you have an example or perhaps a learning experience that you would like to share, having working with this organization that you were like, dude, I'm so blessed and this is what I want to do for my entire life?
So many, even from India, like
Sure,
India too.
sure.
I was working with social, like I was working with a social enterprise. I think that was where my love for social enterprise was kindled. When I worked with Devi Prasad in with Arohana Diary. And I mean here, like it, I was always like, I'm looking for an opportunity to come back into the social enterprise world. And I think I shared some of these experiences with you again. But the rewarding part, what I see is it always comes down to the impact that you are making. Um, I've worked in Rwanda with Spouts, like it's the same. We go there, we visit households, and the woman will tell you there was one household that there was a partner that we were working with. And when they sit in Europe, sometimes they have a different understanding of what goes here. So there were some parameters as part of the investments and everything that they were like, okay, yeah, we need these parameters, we need this data. We're like, this data is very difficult, like income sizes, like income and in some particular households. So they're like, yeah, let's come down, let's go and see like the kind of households. So we flew in, we drove like hours, 5 hours or so to go to some of these communities. And after one, two, three different households, that executive just shook his head and it's like, wow, I've never seen something like this. Like people living in this kind of things and this kind of there. Because a grandmother was telling us like she's there alone with like about 3, 4 grandchildren. Like their mother is not there, their father is not there. She's taking care of them. And she's like, I'm very happy I have this product here because at least now I know I'm sorted about their drinking water. Even when I'm not here, I know they can drink clean water. In some of our cook stove projects that we run, they are like, yeah, we know we are saving fuel like significantly and things. So it's always a joy. Like, and for me, I like going to the field a lot. Like nowadays, I feel like I'm being inhibited because of my new role. Because in my other role, like 2 times in a month, you might never see me in the office, like out there, because hearing that, seeing the impact, pushing the team to deliver results so that people can benefit, it's always that part of, wow, we are making an impact, we are making an impact. So working in these social enterprises, I believe social enterprises a crucial part of the ecosystem because we sit in a unique intersection between for-profits and the non-profits. I always make this joke when we are with some of our friends, colleagues who work with non-profits, is you guys have a problem of spending money. Like the non-profit guy will tell you, I have this budget. I need to spend this budget this year, or else next year they are going to cut me down. And we are like, that is a unique problem to have. We need money to make an impact. But you guys, their problem is how do I spend money to how do I spend the money, the budget that I have? And our problem is how much more households can we impact, but with this very little money that we have in our hands. So it's always like a joke between us. Like we like, guys, don't tell us your problem because your problem to us is not a problem. I want that kind of problem that you have. But we sit in that intersection where we are trying to, even sometimes we are the ones bringing non-profits and for-profits together to say, hey, let's look at how we can make an impact. So we also target these communities that might have been forgotten about, because there are some communities that for-profits will not go there. There are some communities where we've gone to do our projects that they've not seen a car in like a week or two. Sometimes your car comes around there, and that is the first car they've seen in a month coming there. That is how remote some of these places are. And so in such a place, a commercial enterprise will not go. Like, no matter what you do, they will not go there because it doesn't make economic sense for them. But we as a social enterprise are able to creatively find the resources to support this kind of community. So it's always a very unique intersection. And for me, that has always been the challenge because I always wake up with a different problem. Like it's not like you wake up and the day, no single day is the same. Like today you wake up, there's a car has broken down somewhere in the middle of a trip. They are trying to figure out, they are about 20 kilometers out to the nearest town. Like it's you are wondering what the heck is going on here. You wake up, production issues, like so. It's a very beautiful, if I can call it that way, field to work in. Very challenging, very rewarding in terms of what you call the internal profit. I like that word. I'm going to pick it. I'm stealing this word, internal profit. So yeah, it's very rewarding, challenging, but I would say career-wise, it's I think one of the best decisions I've made working in a social enterprise. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Like I was thinking now you have a leadership role, right? And you have already your values. So from your experience, how important is to leading sustainably? What do you think is so important to integrate these to any type of organization? Because like also I think there is a challenge for leaders, directors, or people who want to lead by example, if they have already these values, I think they can make a difference. So for you, how important is to lead sustainably?
That is a good one. I think it's very important and always to remember your why. Why are we doing this? So that always becomes like your North Star. Because if the team, yourself, always remember your why, you naturally will follow. You naturally will follow sustainability. It's like, let's say, imagine you're on the open water, you're in a boat, and amidst everything, you've just been instructed, follow the North Star. No matter what you see around you, how many stars you are seeing, your focus is on that North Star. I need to keep it either in front of me or to my left or to my right. However, that's like, this is my North Star. And it's, as a leader, I think it's also, I take it that it's my responsibility to own that why, and also to make sure that in the conversations with the team, we maintain it. So sometimes, like, just like a few days ago, 2 days ago, I was with a commercial team where we were discussing a few things with our commercial operations. And one statement I told them was, and I always tell the team that I lead, is do this thing as if it's your own business. Do you get it? So if you want to do something, ask yourself, if it's my own business with my own resources, will I take this decision? If your answer is no, then you know you are doing the wrong thing. Do you get it? So it's my responsibility, because for us, each sustainability also means different things to different organizations.
Sure.
Do you get it? So as an organization, it's up to you to understand what does sustainability mean to you. Then you have to cascade this down to the team so that the team also understands and know that to some organizations, sustainability might mean operate within your budget.
Sure.
Do you get it? So if, for example, that is your definition as an organization, is operate within your budget, then you need to explain to the team, why is it important for me to operate within my budget? So if I'm traveling and I have not sorted out a few logistics issues, I've not sorted out the itinerary, I can't just stand up and say, I'm going here, because I'm looking at it, I'm going to spend this amount of money, resources, get to this point, and I'm not even certain of what I'm going to do there. So why am I going? I'm wasting resources. So it's very important as leaders to drive that sustainability. And the way you drive it is having very open communication with your team. And sometimes you see we work with different generations, different people from different backgrounds. And that becomes a challenge of leadership, trying to understand each team member, how they work, how they think, because sometimes it's a mindset thing. Actually, 90% of the challenges sometimes I have with, like, working with teams is mindsets, trying to communicate that right mindset, because usually our problem is not on execution. Because by the time you join the team, we know you are capable of doing the work. But if up here, you are not focused, you are not aligned, you don't understand. And I believe, for me strongly, if people are aligned and they understand the why, it makes it easy for them to do their jobs. Because if I wake up and I say, I want to go to this new location, why am I going there? If I can answer that why, then I go in with confidence that I have a mission here. So I think asking that question, the why, if you can answer that why, the how and the what becomes easy. Yeah.
Sure. It's true. Michael, as a leader, and talking about the future for Spouts, where would you like to see Spouts to be You lead in this process of expanding and generating more social and environmental impact, less carbon emissions. Let's dream big. Where would you like to see Spouts reach?
Well, knowing from the deliberations we've had at the global level and the desire of our CEO, as Spout as an organization, one of our visions, where one of the things we are looking to do is to make sure in the next 5 years, over 6 million households have access to clean and safe drinking water in Africa. That is the near term. But our long-term goal is to even look beyond Africa, because access to clean and safe drinking water is not a problem only in Africa. It's a problem all across the globe. So for us, is if there is a country without access, with issues on access to clean and safe drinking water, that is a country that we believe our product becomes helpful. And it's also the collaboration. So it's not that we have to be in every country, but we can have partners in every country that can still, through our products, provide a solution to that. So that is our, and that is the beauty of working in water. It's like water is life. Every human being needs water. So it's very difficult to limit yourself to a particular, because every single human being. So I always tell people, if there's a human being somewhere, then there's a need for a product, because that human being has to drink water. So that means that our product is needed. So even if you are the only person on your island and you don't have access to clean and safe drinking water, the chances are high that we will find you.
It's true. That's cool, man. Yeah, it's so true. It's so needed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions, and thank you though for giving up your time to talk to us. In terms of, for those who are interested in careers in clean water access and sustainability, what piece of advice would you give? Maybe if you can structure in 3 tips, 4 tips, or 2 tips, what that piece of advice would you give to them?
Okay. Number 1, I would say have a passion for it first, because that is what will get you up in the morning, no matter how tired. Like today, I woke up and I'm like, I really wish I could stay an extra 2 hours in bed. But you wake up, you're like, nope, I've got work to do. So without a passion, I think it becomes very difficult for you to love. I always tell people, love what you do. Love it. Like if you love it, then it becomes natural. When I'm talking to someone about the filter, there are sometimes that people even used to ask me, are you the one who came up with the idea? I'm like, no, someone else did. But yeah, why? Because the enthusiasm with which I talk about, people might even confuse you to be like, oh, are you the owner of the idea or something? So love that. And number 2, I would say, is be good at what you do. It covers almost every sector, because the market is looking for people who are good at what they do. If you are good at systems, be good at systems. If you are good at processes, be good at process. If you are good at selling, be good at selling. Because even in the water space, there's the technical aspect, but that is limited in terms of what people need there. Like, for example, if you look at our manufacturing process, I don't think I'll be the best person making the filter. You will not love it. Even the shape and everything, you might get a filter get sick. So that is not my specialty. But when you look at it from the other side of it, we have so many people with a diverse background. Like we have people in operations who are managing our logistics, who are managing our inventory, fleet management, and all of that. But all of these people still love what they do because they understand the impact that they are making. So be good at what you do and invest in yourself, I would say. because my journey to coming into social enterprise involved me taking a risk of going to India to start working in there. I was not paid a lot. Like I used to tell people, like my family were quite surprised, honestly, when I left Deloitte. I was being paid half the salary there. But I took a risk that, you know what, I want to learn, because everything, if especially if it's a new industry you are going in, you have to learn. Be prepared to learn, be prepared to take the risk, and it will reward you. It might not be 1 year from now, 2 years from now, but down the line, your expertise in that area is going to give you the satisfaction or even the needed advancement in career. When I came to Spout, I did not start where I am. I started from somewhere, but I learned. I learned, and I was able to show my manager, that's the CEO, that I can be trusted with more responsibilities. And that's how you grow in your career, like everywhere. Like you, and that's what I always teach my people. I should have confidence in you that even if I'm not there, and that's what I usually tell my team, that guys, hey, I want to get to the point. Actually, one of the conversations I had with the CEO, I told him, look, I want to get to a point where I'm irrelevant in the sense that I can decide to travel for 1 month, 2 months, and no one is calling me. Why? Because people are capable of doing what they are doing in my absence. So, yeah, so if you do all of these things, love what you do, be ready to take some risk, learn. Yeah, just do it. As Nike, the slogan for Nike goes, just do it. For me, I believe in, you make up your mind, do it. Do it, keep going, just pushing yourself by the day, and be disciplined about like the passion that you have. It will pay off eventually.
Okay, that's great. And the last question would be, if you could share one message about the importance of sustainability in clean water access, what would it be?
Wow. I'll say it's very important, because, as I mentioned earlier, even when you look at the water cycle system, there are different aspects to water. There's water management, even managing the water that people are getting. So it's very important that we look at it from a sustainable point of view. Right now, due to climate change, a lot is happening. Even the rains we are getting, the patterns have changed.
Wow.
There are some communities where it's getting worse and worse because the rainfalls are becoming lesser and lesser. And even when they get rain, it's so much in such a short time that it causes more problems like floods and things like that. So how, for me, I look at it is that collaborative spirit of looking at water, not just in the bits and quarters of it, but like saying, how do we make sure that, number one, there's clean and safe drinking water for everyone? How do we manage that to make sure that it's sustainable, that not this season there's water, in dry season there's no water? So you look at, in some organizations, they specialize in building of dams, constructing of deep wells to make sure that in wet and dry season, there is clean, safe drinking water. So it's for me, it's a collaborative spirit. Like whenever I meet other people, even when they are doing something different from us, I'm like, yeah, I don't see you as a competitor. I see you as a collaborator, because we are all trying to tackle a problem. Access to clean and safe drinking water. Number one, for me to provide people with clean and safe drinking water, they should first have water, because my product is useless if the household does not have water. If
Okay.
whether dirty or what, there should be water. So that means that someone should also be in the business of providing water. Even if it's not clean, then someone can come in with the business of making sure that this water is clean and safe for drinking. So water is universal. Water, I believe, is life. Without water, I mean, I don't know how long you can survive without water. Few days maximum, you are done. You can survive longer without food than with water. That tells you the importance of water to a human body. So in this space, I believe we need to keep working together. We need more investments into this water because if there's no water, the money you have is nothing. Like you can't even buy the water if there's none available. So we need to respect our water bodies. We need to treat them. We need to protect water sources first and foremost to make sure that the next generation come in. And we also, even in our culture, like in the things we do, we need to teach our children how to conserve water, because even now at home, I'll tell my kid, like, okay, if you are doing this, if you are brushing your teeth, switch off the tap.
Sure.
When you are done, it's small practices. But every day, even if he's saving 200 milliliters of water, that is how many in a month. But he will grow up also knowing that I should learn how to conserve water. So it's a generational. We need to pass it on to the next generation, and we have to be conscious of our use of water and how we can protect it. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool, man. And I think that's the best way to close this conversation, especially how you actually like leaving a legacy even with your children. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Mike, that was fantastic. Reconnect with you after so long.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure. I was very happy when I heard from you. And
Thank you,
like,
man.
wow.
I've learned a lot because, of course, by all means, I'm not an expert in this field. I'm very like happy that you are keep going, making impact, and yeah, your family must be proud, man. you know, being paid having like half salary in India, and now you are leading such a wonderful project. So that's fantastic, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot for
Thank you
sharing
for the
your insights, man.
opportunity.
I'm pretty sure like
Yeah,
people are
thank
gonna
you.
appreciate that.